The Smith signs a new deal, and Viera in the nose are in the mud. Welcome to She Knows Arsenal. We're doing a Just Reacts. Hey guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica, and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at It's Jessinho, where I'll be making fun of Viera in the nose. No, I'm just joking. Maybe not. We'll see. But yeah, injected. I mean, that's what life is about, right? Just having a laugh, just having fun, bantering, and I know some people take it like super serious, but I'm sorry. I thought it was so funny this morning when I got the opportunity to make fun of the Aston Villa fans and in the nose that thought that Smith-Rowe was leaving, So it was funny, sometimes it's just nice to have a little bit of a laugh. I get that we don't want to make Aston Villa relevant, but let's just have a little bit of fun with it, right? So on today's show, Sulz and Harry will join me in a little bit. I'm not even going to tell you what they're doing right now. We'll talk about it when they get here, but they'll be a little bit late. So in the meantime, you just have to deal with me for just a second. But what we're going to be talking about is Smith-Rowe and his new deal. And then when they get here, we'll be talking about managing our expectations for the remainder of the window. At the beginning of the window, we did a whole show about managing your expectations during the transfer window, and the fan base is not managing. They're not managing. So I think we need a refresher course on how to remain, rational and, have realistic expectations for the rest of the transfer window, and how maybe not hitting all of our targets, doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be in a bad spot. Does that make sense? Just because we're not getting everything done doesn't mean it's a failure, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that, and I'll talk to the guys and see what they think about managing their expectations. So there's about 40 of you guys watching right now on all platforms. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, and let's go ahead and get started. So Smith-Rowe signs a new long-term deal, and it was never in doubt. For me, it was never in doubt. There were some Arsenal fans that were feeling like, oh, surely he's off. For me, there was no indication whatsoever that Smith-Rowe was going to leave the club. He said many times that he wants to be an Arsenal legend, and there's just nothing that would have made me think that he was going to leave, right? So basically, he's been an attacking midfielder with us since the age of 9. So he's been at the club for such a long time. And I think if you didn't know, he used to be a part of Chelsea's academy. He got let go, and we brought him in. So I think that's why he probably plays really well against Chelsea, is because he's trying to just get that one in, So, yeah, but Smith-Rowe's rapid progression to the first team was notable, and he celebrated his 18th birthday with a man-of-the-match performance against Paris Saint-Germain in the preseason friendly in Singapore. I mean, we all know that Smith-Rowe's been in and around the first team for quite a bit of time. The only reason why he hasn't been so active in the first team is because of injuries, right? He had a loan spell at RB Leipzig where he had to come back, but now we know that he's in the first team after his loan at Huddersfield, and we couldn't be happier. Technical director Edu said, this is another important step forward for us. And we're all delighted that Emil has signed a new long-term contract. It's great to see another young player develop through our academy system to become a key part of our first team. Emil is a player who represents the future of the club, and this is why we have given him the number 10 shirt. We have trust in Emil, and we know that he has potential to be a beautiful player for many years to come. I don't think any of us can really disagree with that, can we? Mikel said that, as we saw last season, Emil is an intelligent player with an excellent ability. His sharpness on the turn and exceptional vision have made him a key player for us. His attitude and willingness to learn have also been very impressive. Huge credit to our team in our academy, who have given Emil a great education and who have worked superbly to help with his development through the age groups. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't be any happier. I mean, am I shocked that he got the number 10? I think just a little bit, because we know that the number 10 shirt, it's such a heavy shirt for Arsenal. I mean, some of our best players were number 10s, but that being said, I do think he deserves it in the respect that I think if he wants to be a legend at the club, and he shows the type of commitment that he showed last season, I think he can grow into the shirt. I don't think he'll be, next season just like scoring 10 goals and getting 10 assists, but I think he can grow into it. And that's a really, like, the club giving him that shirt just shows how much they believe in him. So I think this is a really big moment for Smith-Rowe and for the club for sure. And I don't know where the quote came from, but I did see on Twitter earlier today that Smith-Rowe said that, he mentioned the youth project that's coming about at Arsenal. Lukanga's mentioned it, Tavares has mentioned it, now Smith-Rowe has mentioned it. We've re-signed all of our young players to new long-term deals: Emil Smith-Rowe, Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, Balogun, Arthur Akwanko, Keto Taylor-Hart's coming. Like, it's starting to shape up. It's really starting to shape up. So all of the narrative around Arteta hates young players, he's ruining our young players. We have to look at the young players that aren't quite making it and aren't really a part of what we're doing at the moment with the young players at Arsenal. We have to look at the circumstances in which their career has kind of unfolded. With Reiss Nelson, I keep hearing this narrative around him like Arteta has ruined him. Reiss Nelson had an opportunity to go on loan and he said he didn't want to go. That's on him. And he also had a lot of injuries, and that's not really Arteta's fault, is it? You look at somebody like Saliba, who I think is a unique situation, but I think maybe that's the only one we can look at the club and maybe be like, oh my gosh, like what's going on here? But Guendouzi, we all know that he has an attitude issue, and that's not really the type of personality that you want around this really good, group of young players, so maybe we could just dispel that entire like Arteta hates young players thing. That's definitely not what it is. I think it's the exact opposite, where we're trying to build a really, talented young core group of players to grow with each other over the next couple of seasons. And quite frankly, that's what I want to see. I think we've been hampered and held back by a lot of the older players in our squad. They didn't have the right mentality and they weren't good enough. So we're going to lean very heavily into young players, and I couldn't be happier. So you guys let me know in the chat box what you guys think about Emil Smith-Rowe getting his new contract. Lone Star says arms in the air, like you just don't care, subscribe, share. I love that. Eagle-Eyed Football says, Jess, thoughts on Ramsdale and Abraham rumors? We can talk about that in just a little bit. Bowie the Cat says, we're all laughing at Villa. HB says, Aston Villa would have been perfect for him. I heard taking a step back is the new step forward. Heaven Angel says, big up to you as well. Austin says, my GOAT. Lone Star says, Villa don't win trophies. It's that simple. Yeah, you guys, I don't think anybody can say that it's such a positive thing, right? And for anybody who is feeling, a little bit uneasy about him maybe leaving, we can put that to rest now. And so now we have this core group that's just, it's growing. You have Ben White potentially, Gabriel, Tierney, Tavares, Lukanga, Smith-Rowe, Balogun, Saka, like Martinelli. That's good. And then when you have like Keto Taylor-Hart coming up as well, Aziz coming up. So I think the future is bright. But we also know that we need to address our present, and that's where players like maybe like Madison, if we were able to bring him in, would help us, because he's not too old where we're getting that William thing going on, but he's experienced enough where he can be a leader and be a part of this young squad, even though he's a little bit more experienced, and I think that that's important to get that balance. But what I don't want to see is the likes of Jordan Henderson and these types of guys coming in, because that's just a total waste of resources and it never really works out, right? So, yeah, I mean, Smith-Rowe even spoke about how, he loves Arteta and all the players love Arteta. And I just think the last couple of weeks, if anything, even if you're not convinced that we're going to have a good window, what you can say is that all of the players that have come out and spoken about Arteta have spoken about him in a good light. They have all said that they really like him and like what they're building at Arsenal. And so that's a good sign. The players that we really like are the players that like Arteta. So maybe Arteta is doing things that are right, even if we can't see it just at the moment, So I'm happy. I know you guys are happy, and that this was a long time coming. This is pretty stressful situation, and now it's over. So my expectations for Smith-Rowe next season are just to continue his development and try to go through a season injury-free. My biggest fear for Smith-Rowe is that the injury issues will continue on, and that's why I'm a big advocate for another number 10 to come in. It's not that I don't believe in Smith-Rowe. It's just I believe he needs to play less now in order to play more in the future. His future is not now. Like, he's 20, 21 years old. We shouldn't have to rely on him. And I think his development, process would be a lot less stressful if we had somebody else to bear the burden while he just kind of develops in his own time. So that's why I'm a big advocate. But I would expect, Smith-Rowe, I think he got 7 goals and 7 assists in all competitions last season. I would expect him to add more goals to his game. I would expect him to, just continue. And I can't even describe what I think this player is going to be like. A lot of people call him the Croydon De Bruyne. I don't really see that comparison so much. I see him more as like a bigger, stronger Jack Grealish. And if that's what you get from Smith-Rowe, then we have a player on our hands, don't we? You guys, Harry's here.
What's up?
How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Sorry I'm late, boss. I was in the bath.
I was like, are you going to tell people what you're doing? Masking. I love it.
Yeah, bit of a face mask, just get some TLC going on.
I love it. You guys say hi to Harry in the chat box. So, Harry, just thoughts off the top of your head about ESR's new contract.
Yeah, chuffed, honestly. Absolutely chuffed. When I watched that video, gave me goosebumps. Just happy that another player from the academy has committed his long-term future. Happy that it puts a rest to any noise. Delighted that he's got the number 10 shirt. It feels a little bit Jack Wilshere-esque because you feel like more of a connection with that player. And I'm excited to see him develop in an Arsenal shirt. And I'm hoping that he will be the catalyst for change, and him and Saka and Martinelli will take us to the desired Champions League. And yeah, absolutely delighted that Arteta and Edu have got this one done, because make no mistake, if we lost him, it would have been a bitter blow. So yeah, I'm really, really, really happy that ESR is staying with us for a very long time.
Yeah, and I hear what people are saying. So basically, I was basically telling them that, Emil Smith-Rowe kind of like was speaking like really high praise for Arteta, like saying that he, the team really loves him and all that kind of stuff. And some people are like, well, he's not going to speak badly on him. And I'm like, but he doesn't have to say that. You know what I mean? It's like, it's unprovoked, words of praise for the manager. So as much as some people want to believe that all of the players are sitting around in a corner hating Arteta the way that some of the fans are, it's not true. The players that we really love, Tierney and ESR and Saka, they've all spoken really highly of Arteta, and him being able to get these players to sign, new long-term contracts, I think only speaks volumes about, it's not just about being at Arsenal at this point. It's that this is the place that they want to be, and that's important. You agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think respect is very much a two-way street, and I think any of the players who are potentially talking, bad about Arteta, maybe Ozil or Guendouzi. I think it's clear because, their situations at Arsenal didn't work out for them. But anyone involved in the team, anyone that Arteta has shown faith in, they clearly love Arteta. I've said many times I've never heard a new manager spoken so highly of by players, professionals, pundits. Even Kieran Tierney, someone we spout as a future captain, said, Arteta's a genius and he's learning new things every day. So I think within the camp, there is a huge amount of trust in Arteta, and I get that an eighth place finish won't potentially inspire all fans, but I feel like most people understand that Arteta has something about him that invigorates people, that challenges people. I feel like a lot of journalists kind of tap into that as well, which is why they were perhaps very loyal to Arteta when he was in some real bad form, because they kind of understood that, this guy's got something special. And if you look ahead, the bigger picture with everything that's going on, he's just come a little bit stuck. But once he overcame those horrible results, I think he's really started to grow into his role. So yeah, I think it's great to see it, and I don't want it to be an Arteta in versus an Arteta out fan opinion. I think everyone should understand that Arteta is appreciated and loved by his players and the people that work with him. And I just don't think that's a debate anymore. I think it's clear to see that everyone who was potentially could have left, whether it's Saka, ESR, Allegan, they've decided to commit their long-term futures. And anyone that has left Arsenal has been on Arteta's watch. Arteta's decided to let those players go. Otherwise, everyone wants to be a part of it. So, yeah, all praise for Arteta and Edu in getting this deal done.
Yeah, and even if you don't rate what people are saying because they're reading a script and all of this is scripted from the media or whatever, they're still signing contracts. And signing on the dotted line is probably pretty much the best indication you have of the project going in the right direction for young players that can go anywhere. You know what I mean? So I'm excited. I really, really am more excited about the young players coming in, to be honest. Lokonga and Tavares were really exciting. And then the young players signing new deals. So for me, that's been the highlight of the window so far. But what I kind of want to talk about is just managing expectations. Again, we did this at the beginning of the window, and I feel like it's time for a refresher, part 2. Managing your expectations for the remainder of the window. Because what I'm seeing is this kind of if we don't get every single thing done, it's a failure. And it's actually not. I know what we have now, like Tavares and Lokonga and potentially Ben White, wouldn't be enough. But I don't see any indication of that being all that we're going to do. And if we're still able to bring in a central midfielder, attacking midfielder, and a goalkeeper, even if we're not able to address right back, I don't necessarily feel like that means that we're not going to be able to improve. I just want to remind people that, I think Manchester United had a very regular squad, pretty regular squad. They had invested quite a bit, but it wasn't what you see now. And they brought in Bruno Fernandes, and it changed everything about their season. They were able to get into the Champions League with Fred and McTominay and Lindelof in their squad. 3 players that you probably could say are pretty regular. So if you tell me that we are able to address our midfield and we get a right-sided center back, but we have Chambers, I don't necessarily feel like that's a failure. I still think we would improve. Harry, what do you think about the remainder of the window? What do you expect to, at the very least, to get done? And on that, what is that good enough for you? Would you be excited about that, or do you feel like maybe not good enough?
Well, it's such a tough question because obviously I tried to think about last season, and whilst it was horrendous, I almost remind myself that we were only 6 points off top 4. And if Champions League football is the target this year, I look at our squad now and say, okay, I know we've lost David Luiz, but if we bring in Ben White, that's a decent replacement. I don't want to say improvement, but, it's a decent replacement. I look at where we fall short last year in terms of Kieran Tierney being injured and Granit Xhaka moving to left back. So now I see Tavares there, so that's great. I look at potentially someone like Danny Ceballos playing a lot of minutes when really he wasn't great or effective, and I see Lokonga. So there's someone in there who can potentially step in. So I think I think for me now, it's about making sure. Okay, sorry. So here would be my priority. My priority would be a central midfielder to replace Granit Xhaka, a number 10, and a right back. Because personally, just me, I don't mind Rob Holding as a starting centre half for us. I think he's adequate, and like you just mentioned, with regards to Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka and whoever it is, if you have your team function in many other areas, you can sometimes get away with these so-called average players. Fabian Delph played left back at Man City and won them the league because there's a team of really good players around him. I'm not making that as an exact comparison because obviously we're not the level at Man City, but if we're looking to get fourth place, you can potentially still achieve that. Johnny Evans at Leicester City came very close to making top four with Leicester, but obviously next to him he's got Soyuncu and Fofana. So sometimes if you have a system that's effective, you can potentially get away with the likes of Rob Holding. So I would probably say a right back I would like to improve on because I think it will give us more of an attacking dominance, and then I would say central midfielder and a number 10 are signings that I would expect to see. However, to contradict myself, I think we're more likely to see a centre-back come in and us stay with Callum Chambers. But listen, who knows? We could go and get all four in terms of centre-back, right-back, centre midfielder and number 10. But the ESR signing has perhaps altered my thinking a little bit in maybe what Arteta planning for ESR and his position. So, yeah, a bit of a long answer there. But I think the most interesting thing you mentioned there was about Lindelof and players who essentially aren't amazing players. But if you get them in the system and get everyone functioning around you, you can carry those players. I think Pascal Sagan started 10 games in the Invincible era, which isn't a huge amount of game, but it's still a substantial amount of games. Ray Parlour featured a lot, and Ray Parlour's obviously a good player, but we're not talking about the Perez and the Lundberg kind of contribution in terms of a Ray Parlour. So, yeah, I think it's about managing expectations, but in the same token, it looks like they're being proactive, right? And so we could see all four positions filled over the next few weeks.
Yeah, and I keep saying the right back is so important. The right back is so important. I guess I don't feel as strongly about it as other people. Not that I don't think so. My thought process is, of course, we need to upgrade on pretty much every single position that we have. Like, that's the reality. We're just not good enough. And it looks like we're going to address most of it. But, if we don't get a world-class goalkeeper this summer, okay, we'll still survive it, right?
Oh, I forgot about goalkeepers. Sorry, I totally forgot about the goalkeeper situation. Yeah, we need a goalkeeper, man. We've just got Leno. We need a goalkeeper.
Yeah, so, and if you look at the right back situation, of course I'd rather have a better right back, but I don't know why people are so stressed out about the right back situation. I don't know if they're just cannot go into the next season with Chambers and Cedric. But for me, I didn't really feel like having them there this past season hurt us. I don't really think that they were the reason. I think not having consistent clinical finishing, a lack of chance creation, having key players like Tierney and Thomas and David Luiz out were more of an issue than right back. Why do you think the right back situation is the one that people are so keyed in on? Even if we were to address the midfield and right-sided center back, why is right back like do or die, or it's a bad window?
I think two things. I'm just reading Lone Star's comment there, Calamity Chambers and Balding. I think one is because of the perception is that Callum Chambers and Rob Holding are miles off the level of Premier League football, which I disagree. So I think that's one reason that people want to see Callum Chambers upgraded or Bellerin upgraded, because they don't want to see Callum Chambers there. And two, I think is probably the Kieran Tierney factor. And we've seen how influential someone that good can be from a fullback position. And I think if we were to have that on both flanks, we could really, really, be hitting the big things next season. But in the same respect, I don't know if having two fullbacks that bomb on is wise. I look at Man City and I see Kyle Walker playing pretty tucked in, and then Cancelo sometimes getting forward, or Zinchenko playing tucked in and Cancelo getting forward from right back. So I think for me, it's probably just a desire to have someone who is quick and who can overlap, who can give you another attacking dimension. But I'm And whilst I say I would love to see that from a right back, if we're not to get that, I wouldn't be mad at Callum Chambers being right back. But then in the same token, the sample size I've got from him is the last 10 games of a Premier League season, which was pretty much over for us. And maybe it's easier for him to perform. Who knows? When we start, the first game against Brentford and then Chelsea and whatnot, if Callum Chambers gets absolutely roasted, that will probably change a lot of people's thinking, or change my thinking. But yeah, I think Kieran Tierney and his influence on the team has played a big part in us thinking, man, if we could get a right back like that, we'll be firing on both flanks. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think personally, if you address most of the issues, then the average of your team goes up, and then you can, like you said, kind of carry the right back just a little bit. I guess I just don't see it that way. Like, if you don't get the right back, then you're failing. You're done, because that's kind of what it feels like. Lone Star is saying if you want 8th place, you stick with Chambers and Holding. And I don't know. I just don't see it that way. I think we're going to address the Holding situation, but Chambers is just a little bit different. But what people have to remember is that, yeah, you may be desperate for a right back, but people have to go in order to make that a realistic position to address, because you have Cedric, Chambers, and Bellerin and Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Like, you could even take Ainsley out. You have to sell Bellerin in order to even consider bringing in a right back. And I do think Bellerin will go. But let's say for some reason Inter Milan says, F you, we want to just do an option, and Bellerin ends up staying, or we have to loan him out, or whatever, let's just say, and we don't get the money, then we don't get a right back. So the idea that we're going to be able to address every single thing is unrealistic. I think we're coming up to 4 more weeks left of the transfer window or something like that. So I just think we need to be prepared for certain things not to happen. But the reality is, if you have basically your ideal midfield, 3 out of the 4 pieces of your back line, and a combination of Saka, ESR, Pepe, Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Balogun playing in those front positions, you can't say that this was not a successful window, because nobody addresses every single thing in one window except for Chelsea, and they're made of money. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's about being realistic with what maybe the manager's priorities are. And I don't want to repeat myself, but Man United won league titles with Darren Fletcher and Anderson playing central midfield. It isn't sometimes about having the flashiest player. Just because Callum Chambers isn't this cool right back who's really popular on FIFA and whatnot, or Instagram, it doesn't make him a bad player. Sometimes there is nothing wrong with being a solid professional, someone who works hard, trains hard, understands the club, carries himself in the right way. There's nothing wrong with that, and all successful squads have that, and you won't be a successful squad without those players. Whether it's a Jordan Henderson or a James Milner, you need these players. And I'm not saying that Callum Chambers is Jordan Henderson or James Milner, but there's variations of those players and those personalities. So I think in this situation, maybe we can just be a little bit patient and appreciate that we know we need a lot of players, and if we don't tick every single box, it doesn't mean we're not ambitious, doesn't mean we're accepting mediocrity, doesn't mean Edu or Arteta aren't doing their job or aren't aware of what we need. But sometimes you can't get all of the toys you want. You just have to wait. And like you say, if the Bellerin deal was taking a long time, if we can't shift other players, then maybe we just have to stay with a Chambers and a Cedric. And on Chambers, also quickly, that guy, in terms of being an actual footballer, is criminally underrated on the ball. You don't play holding midfield in the Premier League. I know we got relegated, but you don't play that position and be a bounce board in the middle if you can't play football. He's a very good footballer. He just isn't potentially an amazing athlete. But when it comes to passing and just being an all-round good player, he certainly has that, which is why he can play centre-back, right-back and central midfield.
Yeah, exactly. I think Chambers, as much as I'm and here's the thing, I hear you, not good enough. I get that. But what I'm trying to get across to you guys, which I feel like is not going to get across because obviously we have our own thought process, but ultimately, if you don't address every single thing, but you improve the level of the squad exponentially, which we will be if we improve the midfield, that was our biggest issue, you guys. It wasn't right back. It wasn't like, let's be real. Right back was not our main issue. You don't like Hector Bellerin, so he seemed like a bigger issue than what he really was. But the issue is that we didn't actually have a midfield that made sense. Our midfield was not strong enough. That's really what it was. Our defense was fine, and we weren't clinical and we weren't creating chances. So just because you don't get the right back doesn't mean it's a failure. You know what I mean?
And in terms of calamity, I mean, Mustafi is a calamity. Lichtsteiner was a calamity. Go back to Stepanovs, that's a calamity. Rob Holding and Callum Chambers aren't calamity. Rob Holding getting out time for a header against Raheem Sterling doesn't make a calamity. You're not talking about a guy who gets loads of red cards and is constantly giving away penalties. Same for Callum Chambers. And whilst he's not amazing, since Callum Chambers came in, he was more than solid. He was really, really good. So if we stop with the pre-existing narratives and just judge Callum Chambers on this season, no one can tell me he wasn't solid. I mean, he was. He factually was.
100%. So now that we kind of know that we're gonna, I think from my view, I think we will address the majority of the midfield. I think we'll get a 10 and we'll bring in another central midfielder to replace Xhaka. Let's just say that's all we get. Are you feeling like? So I feel like those will take a little bit longer. What are your expectations for the beginning of the season? You know, in terms of even managing expectations in terms of how fast this is going to click together. Do you expect them all to step on the pitch together against Brentford and just kill the opposition, or do we need to be a little bit more patient?
Oh, well, do we need to be a little bit more patient? Yes, but will the results dictate our level of patience? I think it will. I mean, I don't know how soon it will click. I hope it clicks from the off because, make no mistake, Brentford, Chelsea and Man City are really, really tough games.
But you're
really
most afraid of the Brentford game, aren't you?
Oh, I'm afraid of them all. But yeah, Brentford, first game in the Premier League, they've been waiting forever to get promoted at home. You know, it's unpredictable. Their fans are going to be in the stadium. It's going to be a really, really tough game. And I can already see the headlines. You know, Brentford have never played a Premier League match and they've beaten us. But I can feel it. So it's making me nervous just thinking about it. And maybe that nervousness or anxiety is taking over my ability to predict how well we'll do or how well we'll start the season. I mean, look, I am fully behind this manager and this process and these players, but I am wholeheartedly scared for the first 3 games. Wholeheartedly scared. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't know, because whilst I back this team and the players, you know, we are unpredictable. We are totally unpredictable. So who knows? I have no educated answer. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But you mentioned it makes me scared. Like, it makes me scared.
They're not going to click right from the beginning. I mean, again, managing expectations. I'm telling you, we're not going to step out on the pitch and it's just going to make sense. But one thing that we have done is, and what it looks like we're going to continue to do, is bring in players that have played in the Premier League before. So you take away that little bit of uncertainty of whether or not they're going to be. I think Thomas was shocked. I really, really do. I think it was shocked. Like, the first game that he played, he was like, oh shit, it's faster than what I thought it was going to be. And he kind of struggled. And then he started like stretching his muscles and then just being horrible, in certain parts of the season. So I think we can expect them to maybe adapt quicker, but them coming in at different times. And we're not going to see our best 11 right off the off, but it's unfortunate that we have to play Chelsea and Man City so quickly. I'm kind of hoping that they're a little ragged, but I don't think they will be.
It's so annoying. It's so
annoying. It is.
I just wanted a couple of nice, easy games, just to get the flow, get the confidence, and then by the time you face these big teams, the likes of Saka and whoever else, are fully integrated into the squad. Scared.
Exactly. And I think Eagle Eye is so spot on here. Do not underestimate Brentford. I'm not saying that it's okay to lose to them or anything, because I can already see that, oh my gosh, your expectations are so low. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I know we killed Fulham, but Fulham and Brentford are not the same. Brentford should have came up last season. Fulham didn't have any business in the Premier League last season. They made it from the playoff, but they really weren't. I think Brentford is better than them. And playing at their home with fans. That's different than playing at Craven Cottage. Is that what it is?
It is. That's what it is.
With no fans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it'll be a different atmosphere, and let's not pretend giant killings don't exist in football. They happen every single week around the world. You know, small teams beat big teams because the small teams have got more motivation. They're fighting for everything, and that big team is just a little bit too slack. So I hope that doesn't happen to us. I really do, but I wouldn't be surprised. But what I will say is, if we lose in unfortunate circumstances, if we play well, if we're bright and we look like we're onto something, but we somehow lose, please, everyone, let's not go mad. Let's not go
They're
mad.
going to.
No,
Harry, this is falling on deaf ears right now.
But we can't lose sight of the season. You know, one game isn't going to dictate how we play. I get that we could lose to Chelsea and Man City, then we'll be 3 games in with no points. So I do understand it, but yeah, if there's signs of improvement and signs of fluid football and whatnot, and an understanding between the new players with the pre-existing players, then I'll be okay. But yeah, once again, I am scared. I'm really, really scared.
It's going to be horrible. Well, can I just say that one of my expectations for next season is for us to score on Manchester City in the league? Just a goal, nice. Guys. Like, I'm so tired of going through those games and not scoring a freaking goal. Like, can we score at least 1 goal on them? Like, it would be nice, you know? Like, I just want to see us, like, I know this sounds so bad, but I just want to see us go out there and actually, like, try to win a game, like, against Man City. Like, I'm just tired of them walking all over us. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, when's the last time we scored on them in the league? I swear it's been, like, since Santee or something, probably like back that far.
Oh, you mean as the last time we beat them in the league?
Yeah, I think that was like the last time we scored on them as well.
Didn't we score? Did we score at home? Or no, did we not? Wasn't it 2-1 when we lost? Or was it 2-0? I can't even remember. I don't. Yeah, the problem with City is they just play keep ball against us, right? It's almost like we're so much better than you, but we're not going to try and score more. We're just going to keep the ball, and it's like, oh, it's so annoying. Yeah, City are going to be scared. I mean, I'm not sure who gave us the fixtures, but giving us Chelsea, City, and Spurs in the first 6 games, in my eyes, is totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. They should give us easy games. Don't they know how sensitive and how crazy our fan base are? So yeah. It's going to be scary.
Sensitive. Yeah, it is going to be scary. Abdallah asked, Harry, do you think Lakabunda is going to be on a madness next season? Is that funny to you?
It is funny. It is funny. I don't know what Lacazette's going to, or Lakabunda's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be here, do I? It's going to be interesting to see. He seemed pretty motivated in those past couple of pre-season games, but who knows? I've got a feeling that Lacazette will not be here come Brentford, but we'll have to wait and see.
Tammy Abraham will be here. You missed the conversation about Tammy yesterday.
What was the overall plot? What was the overall?
The overall consensus was, oh my gosh, he's the worst. No, Chelsea. Oh, we're funding Holland. Oh, like it was that. It was very much that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if we went in for him. I would be surprised.
What are your thoughts on it? Do you hate it?
I don't hate it, but I'm not excited about it. I think there's a looseness to his game. It all seems a little bit improv, which I'm not a big fan of. But in the same respect, you know, the season under Lampard, he played well. He helped Chelsea get Champions League football. So we can't say he's absolutely crap. It's only under Tuchel has he not really been used a lot. And in fairness, you know, Werner's not coming in and set the world alight. Werner just gives you perhaps more running in behind and whatnot. So different elements to Abraham's game. But yeah, I mean, listen, I certainly wouldn't be excited about it. But everyone's path to the top is different. I'm sure Harry Kane at 22 wasn't banging in goals or whatever. I'm sure if you compare Tammy Abraham with a lot of successful strikers, they wouldn't have as many goals as him in the Premier League. So I wouldn't be wholeheartedly against it, but it's I just don't feel like it's a priority either. I think it confuses things a little bit more because then it makes me think, well, what are we doing with Aubameyang? Is Aubameyang going to go back out on the left wing? Does that mean Martinelli's playing behind Aubameyang and Emil Smith-Rowe on the left wing? Does that mean Balogun's not really going to feature? So it just confuses things a little bit for me. It doesn't make sense. Someone like Danny Ings would maybe make a little bit more sense because I know what he could do and I know what he brings and I understand how he fits into a system, even though not really our system. I understand it, but for me, Tammy Abraham just confuses things a little bit. But maybe they see something in him that we don't. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we do have to wait and see. It's one of those where I'll start to freak out if it becomes more realistic. Like, you know what I mean? Like right
are
now.
you against it? Are you not on it? You're not on it at all.
So I don't really like Tammy. Like I think his numbers are actually really good and they make sense from a profile. Like if you put it in a computer and you ask for somebody who is like, you know, pre-prime age, Premier League experience, you know, good XG, good return on goals, you know, a certain type of profile, he would come out of the computer. Like that's who you would get. But then you look at the top and you say, oh shit, it's Tammy Abraham from Chelsea. Like, you know what I mean? So I think just my preconceived like thoughts on him is, you know, that's not really who I'd want. But at the same time, I don't think we have the right profile of striker to get us where we want to go. I think we have two guys that are too old, and I think we have two guys that are too young. And if those old guys don't do what they're supposed to do, I don't necessarily feel like what I've seen from Balogun, which is very little, but I just don't really think he has it. And I still think Martinelli is a left winger. So if we could get a pre-prime, like more proven striker, I would prefer that. But if you're telling me it's Tammy, I'm like, oh man, like, you know what I mean? Like that's not what I would want. But I'm worried about the striker situation because if Aubameyang doesn't come back into form, then what are we going to do? I'm not convinced that Balogun and Martinelli are ready to do it for us. And I would just say that from the fans that are like, well, Balogun and Martinelli are good enough and we'll play Saka and ESR and just forget about it, don't expect top four. Because young players are so inconsistent. Like, it's natural. You know, you're going to lose points because they're inconsistent. They're young players. That's what it is. You know, we need consistency to get into the top four. So I would just say keep that in mind. If your expectation is top four, then I would kind of maybe question thinking that Balogun and Martinelli and ESR and Saka are going to get us there. Not because they're not good, but because we're projecting them to be stars and they're not quite there yet. So that's just me, though.
I think in terms of Aubameyang, to get the best out of Aubameyang, what I feel, the vibe I get is that he needs an arm around him. He needs to be told that he's class, that he's number one. And I don't think signing Abraham will help that situation. And then you've got a guy who's on huge wages in Aubameyang, kind of, you know, in and out of the squad or playing under pressure, which I know footballers should do, but I don't feel like Aubameyang excels under that. I just think he needs to know that he's going to be number one guy playing every week, and I just feel like it just gives us an unnecessary conundrum on who is a relatively unproven player. But yeah, once again, we'll have to wait and see. But you make some good points on Martinelli perhaps being more of a left winger, and then maybe we do need to bring in a striker. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Can I just say that I've been thinking about this just a little bit about the whole Aubameyang thing, and I think the issue with Aubameyang is he has to be the number one guy. He has to be. I think it's not that we want him to be that. It's that he has to be that in order to be successful. It has to be about Aubameyang. Everything has to be built around him. And I almost feel like that leaves us in a position where we're an absolute, like, he's our crutch. And I actually think that's why we look better with Lacazette. But when you give that guy the money, how do you get that balance where, you know, you're spreading it around and you're making sure that everybody feels like they're a part of it and it's more of a team game and still put an arm around Aubameyang and make him feel like he's the man? I think that's the issue, is that the profile of Aubameyang, not from how he plays, but the fact that he has to be the man is a hindrance to us building a team that kind of everybody pitches in, because everything has to be based around him. And I almost feel like his personality is, if it's not me, like, that's not what he wants. You know, we kind of talked about this yesterday. I know you weren't here, but how he has that personality. He wants to be the center of attention. Like, I don't think he's really built for what Arteta's trying to make us into, which is more of a team. So I think he'll struggle just in general. But yeah, it's difficult. If you do bring in another striker, if you brought in a Tammy Abraham or a Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Isak, none of them are coming to sit behind Aubameyang anyway. So again, like you said, we'd be kind of inviting issues on that I'm not quite sure we're ready for.
Yeah, I agree. Just seeing Robert's comment about, you know, modern players and an arm around him with a question mark. I mean, unfortunately, you know, money aside, they still, you know, have emotions, and they're still, you know, made from certain traits or their personality still dictates how they feel. So I don't think, Aubameyang being frustrated or needing an arm around him has anything to do with his wage. I don't think we can use that as an excuse to demand something from Aubameyang in particular. He's clearly a confidence-based player. And when you're a confidence-based player, you need to be told that you are amazing and that you're loved and that you can get back to the top. And that comes from, putting your arm around someone and saying, look, we still believe in you. We're going to build this team around you. I totally get it might be divisive in terms of other players maybe feeling underappreciated, but I think the team understand that, the top of the Christmas tree is pretty important. And if Arsenal want to be successful, as shown last year, we need Aubameyang scoring goals. So I think the team would almost support that, that responsibility of the manager to say to Aubameyang, right, you are the number one guy, let's feed him, let's make sure he feels great. And I've got a feeling that when the fans get back in the stadium and Aubameyang hopefully feels that love, I think we'll see the old Aubameyang. I hope we do anyway, because otherwise we're going to be short of goals, as you said.
Yeah, for sure. And no, you guys, I haven't, it's not really like turning on Aubameyang. I get that, like it feels like maybe I'm turning on him or whatever, but it's not really that. That's his personality. He does want to be the man. He likes attention. He does need an arm around his shoulder. He's, you know what I mean? Like these are things that are actually happening. In the last season, we kind of switched away from a Aubameyang centric to a more team game, and he suffered from it. So I don't think that's wrong to say. But hi Sulz. So Olivier asked the question: out of the first 5 games, how many points will we have? So we can kind of predict that right now a little bit. So we have. Let me see. Brentford away, Chelsea at home, Manchester City away, Norwich at home, and Burnley away. So let me put this up real quick. It's tough to say.
I'm going to say 7.
7?
I expect to beat Brentford. I think City is the only loss that I think we probably should expect. I'm not saying we should lose to them, by the way, but I'm just saying expecting it. Norwich and Burnley we should be beating, so there's 9 points. And then Chelsea is the real question for me, is whether they can get a Haaland or how prepared they are for the season. But going off of last season and them coming in with basically the same squad, I reckon we will beat them. So I reckon we'll come out with 12 points out of that. I think the only loss that I'm expecting is a City.
Man, if that happens, I'll be delighted.
I was more confident before, but I think I want to be less confident because now that we've spoken about knowing that we're not going to have our best 11 right from the beginning, we're going to have some of those. I don't know I know some people think Gabriel's going to be back. I don't necessarily feel like he's going to be back. I think Marie will start. We don't know if we'll have, like, the window will not be closed yet when we, so if like potentially a Madison deal takes into the end of the window, you won't have him, you just never really know. So I would say, I think we're going to beat Brentford. We'll tie Chelsea. We'll lose to Man City. We will beat Norwich and we'll tie Burnley away because we just are shit at Turf Moor. So that's 8, I think.
Yeah, 8, 9, yeah. I'd be happy with that. Because like I said, like City and Chelsea are the only 2 that I'm a bit like, well, I don't know where that could go.
Yeah. I'd go Brentford 0, Chelsea a draw, Man City 0, and I think we'll beat Norwich and Burnley. That's just a feeling that I have. I think it's going to be a real slow start for the season. I think after the Man City game, there's going to be
You are going for this Brentford thing.
No, honestly. Yeah. I can feel it. I feel like it's going to be a real tough start to the season. After the Man City game, it's going to be Arteta out. And then our season will almost start at home against Norwich, and we'll beat Norwich, Burnley, then Spurs. That's what I think will happen. It's just the feeling I can get. And listen, I love this team. I love this manager. I love our players, but I just feel like it's just going to be a slow start for us.
Yeah, let's see what you guys are saying. Loss, draw, loss, win, draw. It's terrible.
Cool, Pat. What's the me, brother?
Yeah, Pat. Pat is not confident. Pat. C says 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss. Oh, 15, laughing out loud. AK says 7. I would say 7 to 9 because of how difficult it's going to be. But I'm telling you, we get 7 to 9 points. It's going to be Arteta out, get this guy out. Let me tell you right now, he ain't going nowhere.
They already won it. He could win the Premier League, the Champions League, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, be the only manager to do it, and they'll still want him out.
Yeah, for sure.
His agenda's over success. That I'm saying it now. I don't even care.
Oh, man. Yeah, we talk about that all the time, how it's just like, it's so unbearable sometimes. You guys want to get a couple more questions in? We will answer them. DB says 2 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses, 7. Yeah, not great. Not great. I mean, we'll see. I mean, if we started off there, no, I don't really know. I just don't want to be too confident because I don't want it to come back and bite me.
Yeah, to be honest, we will lose all 5. Why not in it? Like, let's just, because every time we're overconfident, we seem to lose. So let's just be very let's just start being negative. Why not? No, you got to back the team. Look, at the end of the day, Brentford, we've got a very good record against promoted sides, especially when we played them for the first game. They're coming to Arsenal Football Club. That's a fantasy of theirs. That's something which most of those players probably dreamt of doing, never thought it'd be a reality. So you've got to back ourselves. They're going to be the ones who are going to feel the pressure of this game. We're not going to feel that. We're going to feel quite comfortable. Chelsea, like I said, that's an anomaly for me. That's something which we have good success against. But if they manage to sign the players they're looking to sign, then it could be a different story. But then if we can get Maddison over the line before that game, then we're a lot stronger than we were last season. So I don't see why we should be going in that with no confidence at all. And
I just think that's our default. Like, our default is to be like super negative. Like, as a fan base, I just think our default is just that. Like, we love to go over the top. Like,
I'm being
reject.
Real. The only one is City. I'm not scared about any of the other ones. It's just City that I fear all the time.
Well, I took into account like away and home and that kind of stuff. And I still think we'll have a good season. I just think the beginning is going to be tough. Like, you know what I mean? But when I see like loss, it's just like, we're not going to lose all 5 games in the beginning. You know what I mean?
I'd love to see the Premier League. I'd love to see last year's Premier League table after 5 games and just, how it looked, because usually you see a team that shouldn't be at the top right towards the top. I'm not sure if Southampton were near the top last year, but it felt that
it was Hampton.
City started terribly.
Yeah, I think Man City lost to Leicester, didn't they? 5-2 or whatever. Yeah, so
they started horribly.
I feel like I'm also bracing myself for that slow start that I kind of expect. I don't think it should change I don't think it would affect essentially where we finish. I think we could still get top 4 despite a slow start. But I don't think I'm being negative. I'm just scared, and that's
no. You're not being negative. I just know you're preparing yourself.
But can I add to it? Like, it's you've got to understand, some of these players, right, thrive under the attention, under the spotlight, in terms of the fans being back. Obviously, if everything is to be believed by the government, we're expecting somewhat of a full crowd. If anything, it'll be at least 70 to 80% capacity. So that is something which an Aubameyang, for example, thrives under. He loves the spotlight. He loves the attention. Maybe that's what Lacazette needs as well for a certain push. That maybe is what Pepe needs for the certain extra, 10% of his game. And we never know what if these, like, because we've seen last season was very shockingly bad, but also when we look at it, when we've had fans in the stadium, we've been brilliant. So maybe that's all we're missing. We don't I'm going to go with it with an optimistic mindset, because why not? There's no, if we're thinking we're getting relegated, what's the point? Just turn the season off. Don't watch. Just go enjoy your season. Don't watch Arsenal. Like, why are you going to do it when you're thinking, oh no, we're getting relegated? Like some fans I've seen on Twitter. Like, just get on with your lives, man. Like, come on.
Yeah, for sure. DB is asking, do you guys think ESR getting the number 10 says anything about Maddison joining the Arsenal? Nope. I don't either. I don't really see it.
Look, the number on the shirt, right? Yes, it means something. But ESR was always going to stay. And guess what? We were still looking for a number 10. Even last season, we were looking for a number 10. We're still going to look for because ESR is not going to be playing every single game of every single minute of every game. You're going to need depth. Every team needs depth, especially in that number 10. We know sort of Smith-Rowe's sort of one weakness that I should say was his sort of fitness let him down. After sort of 2, maybe 3 games, we were like, oh yeah, his legs look a bit gone and we may need to rotate him. And that's not, I'm not criticizing the kid, but you could see that. So why I don't understand with this why ESR signing. We still tabled an £80 million bid, knowing ESR was signing for Maddison anyway, or 60 million. Sorry. So I don't get it. Like, I don't understand where people are bringing this correlation in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people maybe don't think it fully through. I mean, if you're gonna get, I don't really see it. I think the number, yeah, you want your specific number, but I mean, even Thomas wanted the number 5 and he waited it out. Like, I don't really think it's that serious. And if he wants to move, then he'll come. But like, if all it takes is for the number 10 not to be available, then it's not for us anyway. Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't really think it has a correlation. You know, I don't really care if Smith-Rowe gets the number 10. It's fine. If Maddison comes in, gets a 11, it's fine. I just want them to play good. I don't really care. I don't think it really matters. You know what I mean? I did see a question about how do we think Viera is going to do?
Oh, yeah, Crystal Palace.
I'm not even going to lie to you guys. He's not that good of a coach at the moment. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that. You know what I mean? So I don't think I'm wrong with saying that. I love Patty. Like, Patty's a legend. But at the moment, like, and I would say in the same respect, like, Arteta's not that great of a coach right now. Like, you know, they still have to work through some kinks. Like, they're still quite young. You know, some of the best managers are like 70 or like 60 or like just older than them. Like, you know what I mean? So, but I would say I wouldn't be shocked if he got sacked quite quickly. I just don't think he's that great of a manager at the moment.
Yeah,
I love Patty.
I've got a feeling he might struggle, and not maybe so much because of him, even though I agree. I don't think he's had an amazing managerial career so far. I just think that Crystal Palace team is pretty uninspiring, and they're so used to playing this kind of almost like negative football. I do wonder how it will change that dynamic, and obviously a lot will depend on what Zaha does as well. I'm not sure, to be honest. Yeah, I could also see an early departure, but hopefully I'm wrong. We'll have to wait and see.
You guys don't hate me, but I do have to go. Sorry. I know I do these abrupt.
I just got out of my bath, man.
I know I do these like abrupt. Well, you were supposed to be here right at 10. Like, you were supposed to be here right at 10, and then you decided to come later, and then Sulz decided to come even later. But you guys will make it up at some point. There's about 140 of you guys still watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back tomorrow at some point talking about something, and we'll see who's available. George won't be here for like a whole week, so don't be asking me where George is. He's not coming. He won't be here. But maybe Harry and Sulz can fill in at some point. So yeah, guys, we'll see you guys soon. Bye, y'all. So random and so abrupt. Sorry.
Thank you.